Josiah, it's great to have you back on the show. It's fun to be able to talk to you about Disciple, although I must confess I'm one of those people who really knew you first as a Philmont band member.
Oh.
So I feel like we've grown up together, man. It's so cool.
You're one of those few people, eh? All right.
That's right.
Awesome.
That's right. One of those people who still thinks it's a little odd that you have facial hair and look so scruffy. I mean, I'm used to you looking a lot more clean cut.
That's funny because I feel the same way sometimes. I'm like, I look in the mirror, I'm like, who is this rock and roll guy? I don't know. I don't think I know him. No, that's fun, man. I have nothing but fond memories of Philmont days, and we've had some cool opportunities in the past, year or so to revisit some of that together and with the other guys. And it's just a great chapter of my life that I can look back on with fondness.
Well, since you are no longer in Philmont, we'll talk about Disciple stuff because that'll be fun. Right. And you are officially also the first band member of Disciple besides Kevin who I've ever interviewed. So you have that going for you as well.
And there have been quite a few of us. I take pride in that. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And part of the reason for that is, a lot of the other guys I know have other things going on, but I've kind of been able to see some things that you've had going on the side, which I find interesting. So we may get into just a little bit of that. But
sure.
First off, I know you guys just recently got back from Germany and you got to do the Christmas Rock Night. Now, this is not the first time that you guys have done that. How did it go this year?
Kevin always says it's our favorite show of the year, and he's the most qualified to say that because I think we figured out that he has played it at least 15 times.
Wow.
And it's a yearly festival in December, and there's a few reasons why it tops our list. One of which is it's always a great turnout, and there's a lot of great bands there, many from the States, but also several European acts as well. And there's just something about Europe and Christmas time anyway. They always kind of have a great Christmassy kind of charm going on in the places we travel to. And so there's that element that's cool for us. There's also just the fact that it's usually the last show of the year for us. And so there's a kind of a warm feeling of kind of closing out the year there. And Disciple's been there so long that the fans there are just amazing, and they really love the old stuff. So we always pull out a few, lesser known songs for them, and they really appreciate that. So it's fun in that respect. But also they don't get big rock shows over there very often from American bands. Over here in the States, we go on tour, and a lot of these cities we play, there's Christian shows to go to, every other week. And
right.
So not that it's a bad thing, it's just a different kind of economy over here for music. And so there's really a deeper sense of engagement with the crowds there. They love rock music. And so when they're coming to this show, it's like they're going to go all out because it might be their only chance to see, this many rock bands at the same time for the next year. So it's really fun in that way. And we can really just feel the energy as soon as we get to the stage,
Absolutely. And I've heard that from people. I've heard that it seems like whenever you go over to Europe in general, it's like people are just ready to leave everything there and just walk out just completely exhausted. They're not gonna rest for a second because they want to take advantage of every single moment.
Right. And actually a great example of that is this particular year we played Christmas Rock Night, and then the next day we flew over to Switzerland and played a show there. Now, Switzerland, I have not played before, and Disciple played there over a decade ago, I think.
Wow.
And so we weren't really sure what to expect. We could always count on Christmas Rock Night being amazing, but we were going to this Switzerland show and we weren't really sure what it was going to be like. But it was on par with Christmas Rock Night, believe it or not. The crowd was just insane. And many of them hadn't seen Disciple in that past decade, but they came out. And
wow.
So there was a really cool confirmation of how awesome it is to play in Europe.
Sweet deal. Now, was there anybody else playing on the bill with you guys in Switzerland?
There was a local band, actually, a worship rock band.
Okay.
Who opened up. So it was less of a festival, more of just a show. But yeah, the turnout was just insane, and we were blown away and just really surprised in a great way.
Nice. Now, here's a random question for you, and this is obviously just based off of those two shows, at least most recently. But do you find that in general there is a specific favorite song over there that differs from, say, like a standout track that's over here?
Sure. So, like I said, they kind of love the old stuff. They tend to like the more raw kind of throwback recordings as well as the songs from that era. And so, in Disciples' world, I think I Just Know, Big Bad Wolf, God of Elijah, songs from those first couple albums that are still in print. Those are kind of the ones that we see the best response from. They love, the ballads as well, and they'll sing super loud for the ballads. But whenever we bust out those really, raw, in your face songs from the old school Disciple days, they really go nuts.
Nice. Very cool. Well, now going from looking back to looking ahead a little bit, the last time that Kevin and I had talked, he was discussing the idea that you guys were going to be doing two kind of Disciple side projects, I guess.
Sure.
Is that still ongoing?
It is, and basically we've had the idea for most of this year, and as time has gone on, we're figuring out more and more what the reality looks like for those projects, and there's things coming to fruition that I can't quite speak on yet, but what we are going ahead for sure and doing a worship album, and that's literally all I can say, because that's literally about all I know. Most of the further details are unclear, but there are some pieces moving that are signaling that it's going to be time to do that sooner rather than later.
Okay.
And on the flip side, we've definitely got some demos going for the heavier project, which is called Death Penalty.
Okay.
And so that's going to be a more metal, in your face type thing, more for fun. That one is more meant to just kind of put out a record or an EP and just do it for fun. And Nick Deddy from Wolves of the Gate is involved with that as well. So it'll kind of add a different element to our typical leanings.
Okay.
And whereas the worship thing, we're hoping might, lead to some other opportunities in that realm that we can balance with Disciple.
Sure.
And so those two things have their kind of speculative timelines, but nothing concrete right now. And in the meantime, we've been realizing it's probably about time that we start writing a new Disciple album.
Not that things aren't complicated enough, but yeah.
Exactly. It's funny. I mean, we're the kind of guys, just individually and as a group, that we go big with our ideas, and so we're super ambitious, and we can be very productive as well. But yeah, it is funny because we kind of had our sights set on these other projects for a few months, kind of trying to figure out what that looked like, and all of a sudden we were like, wow, it's been a year since Long Live the Rebels came out, and we've done very little work on whatever the next Disciple album is going to be. So we should, that's Disciple's always going to be our main thing, regardless of other projects. And so we want to, treat that with the proper, respect and time. And so we're trying to start kind of turning the wheels on the next Disciple album. So
okay, nice.
Yeah.
Now I know that you have written some of the songs, at least that you wrote some of the songs off the last record. And,
yes.
It's not like songwriting is a strange thing to you. I mean, you were one of the co-writers on one of the most recent As We Ascend songs that's done really well.
Right.
I got to see your picture with your plaque. That was nice.
It was nice, yeah.
All about that. So, I mean, what does the writing process usually look like at this point for Disciple?
Man, it's a great dynamic we have. Kevin, within the first year of kind of what we call Disciple 3.0 taking shape, which that's, me, Andrew, Joey, and at the time, Jason Wilkes, he was really awesome, early on about kind of letting us explore our own musical tastes within the context of Disciple. And he would have every right, basically, after so many years in the band, he would have had every right to kind of keep a tight grip on the process and oversee every part of it. But he was actually the opposite, very hands off, and would let us, write a lot of music and lyrics, even melodies, and then he would put it all through his lens, which is the Disciple lens, and help shape stuff. And of course, he still writes most of our stuff. So within the past couple albums, you have some cool departures and explorations that are can be attributed to the newer members, but at the core of it is still Kevin's vision and Kevin's vocals, which, what he always says is, if it's a great song and you put my voice on it, it's a Disciple song. You know what I mean?
Nice.
doesn't have to sound like a hard rock song or a power ballad or whatever. It can be anything, and if it's my voice, it's Disciple. So we've kind of ran with that, and it's worked out great.
How is Kevin going to take that when you guys vote him out of the band and get a new lead singer?
Well, I mean, Probably shouldn't air this part in case he's listening, but oh man, great.
Oh man, you'll be like, yeah. So you remember that rule you made? Yeah.
Right.
Oh man, Kevin, we kid. So that's cool, man. That's cool. It's nice to be able to have that kind of dynamic. I mean, of course, doing music interviews, I rarely ever hear the person who's like, well, this person's a jerk. They won't let us write anything. But,
Sure.
sometimes you can read between the lines and you're like, yeah, maybe they have a little too much ownership on something. But, it's nice that isn't the case with you guys.
Well, it's very democratic. We all end up writing a bunch of stuff, a bunch of material for each album. And, another one of Kevin's kind of phrases is, may the best song win. So,
right.
So it doesn't come down to, making everything fair, or like someone's favorite song, might not make it if it's just not everyone else's favorite song. So, and that's been the case with me, with Kevin, with Andrew, like with Jason at the time. Like we've all been in that boat, but we've all, like, because it's a across the board kind of strategy, we've all come to respect that and kind of gain a broader understanding of what a great Disciple album is.
Sure, absolutely. Now, has there ever been a song that was a favorite of yours that didn't make it, that you wanted to see the light of day in a different place or setting?
Yeah, there's been a couple like that. I mean, it's funny too, because when you go down those roads, you realize kind of what is your personal preference and what is your objective, quality meter. You know what
Right.
I mean? And so there are definitely songs that I think are really cool and have a cool kind of emotion or lyric, but maybe don't speak to the vision of Disciple very much, that didn't make our albums. And so it's kind of, like I said, kind of broadening my lens of realizing, okay, this song is like really cool to me because I like these things in music, but I've never felt gypped or anything, if that makes sense. And
sure.
And there have been certain musical things I've actually been able to incorporate into other songs for writing sessions and whatnot. So for other artists. So that's been cool as well to get those opportunities.
Sure thing. That's awesome. Well, let's talk about the song "Secret Weapon." It's kind of the single. Well, it's not kind of. It is the single right now, and it's doing well. It was one of those songs that I wasn't sure what it was going to do. Not because it isn't a favorite of mine, because it is. I mean, it was one of the standout tracks that I remember most vividly from the newest record, and I like it a lot. And then it came out as a single, and it had kind of a slow burn at first, and then it started taking off in the last couple of weeks, which made me very happy, because I'm like, yes, people get it now, which is always nice. It's validating, because you're like, why?
Absolutely.
Am I the only one? It's like, this is a really cool song. So, but yeah, tell us about that song, kind of what went into it, maybe some of the writing for it, the dynamics around it, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so that one was one that I kind of came up with the idea on tour, and I kind of just got struck by lightning almost, and kind of, we had a show one day, and the night before I literally got out of my bunk and went to the back lounge and just kind of started messing around with a riff and a melody, and the next day I took all of my recording gear into the church we were playing and went back to some nursery or something and cranked out like almost the full song on a demo. We've all been listening a lot to a band called Bring Me the Horizon past year or two. Mm-hmm. And I'd say that was one of the biggest kind of influences. And so that kind of Bring Me the Horizon, a little bit of Brand New is another favorite of mine. And so kind of drawing from that, and just, I think I get most excited about songs that just have kind of this swagger to the lyric and the delivery. And there's definitely a lot of like swagger in the song, but what I love about it is that beneath the swagger is actually the statement of the opposite, which is like basically the confession of being a fraud at times, or being less than what you portray, but in that embracing the strength that we find in Christ and our faith, and how that's what actually makes us these spiritual forces. So I love kind of the dichotomy there. Really tried to just dig at that when making the track. So it was a lot of fun.
Nice. Very cool, man. Very cool. It's funny. I have this weird desire to try my hand at a mashup of that song. And there's a song by Propaganda that's charting right now as well that's called Olympian. And the don't, there's a weird part about Olympian that almost has the same kind of beat to it, but yet it's different. And I'm like, that'd be kind of cool. Of course, I'm not talented enough to make it sound good, but it'd be fun to try. So
I'll check that out. That sounds awesome. I'd love to hear that song. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, man. It's interesting. I mean, of course, they're completely different. I mean, you couldn't ask for two songs that are on the same chart to be more diverse than that, but it's funny, man. It's funny. Cool.
That's awesome.
So recently I've noticed a lot of you being able to do some songwriting, co-writes, and of course some producing lately. Is there anything that's part of that you A, can share, and B, that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so back at the beginning of 2017, I signed a publishing deal with a company called Daywind, and had been talking to them for a while. A guy named Chad Green, who has decades of experience in multiple genres, kind of brought me on there. I was really excited about that prospect because basically what I've been doing there this year is they've been setting me up with rights in all genres, and that's something that I love the diversity of. Some people, and probably rightly so in their cases, like to lean into a certain strength or lean into a certain genre or a workflow, and I've just always been the opposite, especially with music. I love guitar, I play guitar, but I actually don't consider myself like much of a guitarist in the grand scheme of things. Like, it's just a tool for me to really use in songs and in producing and in performing. And so with that, this year I've gotten to do a lot of great co-writes with worship, with pop, with country, and of course with rock. And so it's been really fun in that regard. And there's always, with publishing, there's always, stuff that might happen or might get cut by an artist that's really cool. And you just never know until it actually happens. But I've been fortunate to, get in some good situations, and I just love my team over there. And then on the production side, some stuff's just kind of fallen into place that I didn't really try for or expect. But the most recent one is as you probably saw, I recorded a song with Fireflight, who's so I don't want to speak too much for them because I don't know what all they're trying to release in a tiered fashion.
Sure.
But we did a song, and it's really, really cool. And they came in, and it's a big rock song, and it's really, really good. And I was able to they brought in a demo. I was able to kind of help shape some of the lyrics and melodies with Dawn and Glenn and all them. And we really had a great time and vibed really well. And so I think we're going to keep maybe doing like a song at a time for a while and see what happens.
Okay.
But it's definitely back to the rock sound for them, and they're excited about it. I'm excited about it. Not sure what all they're planning on doing, like I said, but whatever. What we've done so far is really, really cool, and I'm excited for people to hear it.
Sweet. See, now I had assumed, because I saw that, and I assumed like, oh, cool, it's new Fireflight music. And then I saw them announce that Dawn was doing a worship project, and I'm like, oh, it must be that. Surely it's got to be that. And then I'm like, and now you're telling me it's rock again, so now I'm very happy. So
yeah, it was kind of just a funny coincidence of press or of publicity because Dawn is doing a solo album. I think it's actually done already, and so that's going to be coming out in the near future. And then it just happened to coincide with our producing of this song, and so they started posting social media, and I did I have seen a few confusing comments about that. but for the record, I had nothing to do with the Dawn solo record.
So good or bad, you can take that for what it may be, but
right, exactly.
None of us have heard it yet anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
That's very true. I have no idea. I'm sure it's great.
Oh man, that's funny.
Yeah, man. I don't know if you know the band The Protest.
I do know The Protest. Yes, I think I've had them on the show once, but it was fun.
Nice. So The Protest is an awesome band from Indiana that we've toured with some, and they're great friends, and they're actually almost done working on their new album, being produced by a great friend of mine, Matt Arcaney, who's done a lot of work on Disciple albums over the years. But I actually was able to co-write 3 of the songs on their new record, and I've heard some of the roughs, and they're coming out super cool. So if you're a rock fan, maybe you haven't heard of The Protest before, but I would go ahead and like their Facebook page because they've got a record coming out soon. It's going to be slamming.
Sweet, man. All about it. Cool. Yeah, I like The Protest, and they're one of those bands I've kind of been continually surprised that they haven't done better. But
yeah, they've kind of been just kind of the slow and steady route for now. But yeah, like I said, this album of theirs is really, really, really good. I think it's going to do the trick in a lot of ways for them.
Sweet, cool,
yeah, man.
Awesome. Well, dude, I have two last questions for you, and of course, feel free to tell me anything else that you just really want people to know. But my two last questions are: A, you just recently became a dad. How is that going?
That is so true. I'd actually, man, I totally forgot until you said that.
You forgot you had a child. This is not good.
No. She's just sleeping, so she's a good sleeper. No, it's been amazing. It's my first child, and she's awesome. My wife is a rock star, way more than I am when I'm gone. She's just crushing the game as a mother, and so I've been gone about half the time since she was born in September. Gone on tour, and I haven't had to worry about anything. Like I said, my wife's just amazing. And so, but it's been great. And I have gotten to have a good bit of, time at home with her. That's been the funny challenge there is, since I do most of my, studio work and writing work at home, I'm an optimist. And so I tended to think early on, like, oh, I can just have her in the room with me and like do a writing session or like, record a song. Like she'll just chill right there in the bassinet and be totally fine, and I can get all my work done. The reality is a little more complex than that.
Yes, it is.
So I've been that's been my biggest learning experience so far is figuring out what I actually can plan to get done in a day if I'm watching her. I'm trying to master using Pro Tools with one hand so that I can hold her in the other, and so.
No more keyboard shortcuts for you, my friend.
Right, exactly. So that's been fun. But I can't complain. I'm super happy to be a dad and just loving it, and excited to just figure out how my continued musical expeditions fit into home life as a father and whatnot. So
I feel you, man. I feel you. Well, as a follow-up question to that,
Sure.
Is there any song in your head that you've already maybe had it cross your mind that, if my daughter grows up and hates this song that I wrote, it's going to crush me?
That's funny. I don't know if I've had that conscious thought at this point. But there are, certain times where I think, because I as a writer, I pull from real life experiences, but also, a lot of speculation and kind of fictional stuff. I think it's cool to have both in songs. And so, there have been times where I've thought about, a lyric or an idea that's kind of inspired by her, but I fear that if I did something like that, it might be overly cheesy, or I'm trying to figure out, I guess, basically how to get to that place where I can write something that I would be able to look back on, that we both would be able to look back on in 10 or 20 years and be like, that's a cool song.
Right.
So we'll see if I get there.
All right. Sounds good. Cool. Well, my final question is one that I like to ask everybody, especially when they're on the show for the first time. Josiah, you are a guitarist in a rock band. You've been in a couple. You write songs, you write hits. You look like a bad dude with the beard and the hair. And I mean, you're just tearing it up every night on stage. What
Thanks.
is the most un-rock and roll thing about you?
Oh, man. I mean, do you want a top 10 list? Because there's a bunch.
Just the one that comes to you the most, and we'll dive deeper next time.
It's probably my actual musical taste. Like most of my musical taste is on the pop side, or on, there's an 80s pop British singer named Kate Bush who I just recently was like getting into, and I've been blasting her albums for the past like month or two. It's totally like nothing rock and roll about it. And if I was in Nashville and happened to drive by somebody who's a Disciple fan, they'd probably be very disappointed to hear whatever I'm blasting in my car. It's it's usually very, very unrock.
Fair enough, my friend. Fair enough. I love it. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, dude, thank you so much for calling in. I know it's a busy time of year. I'm glad you're getting to be home a little bit with the little one and the wife, and I hope that all that time is well spent and enjoyable, and I hope you get something good underneath your Christmas tree this year.
Oh, thanks so much, Paul. I've got a few of them, so I'm hoping that, that increases my chances, a few trees. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Cool.